All right, we're gonna start the event right now. We will kick it off with Ping Chow, our NAAAP president in Philly chapter. Ping.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have almost 100 people sign up for this event. I've been the president of NAAAP for almost 2 years. I gotta admit, about 60 or 70% of you I have never seen. I look at the list of names, you're not familiar. Welcome aboard. First of all, I wanna thank our two panelists for making the busy schedule to join us. Shawn Samuels from Comcast. Shawn, wave. And Min Park from WuXi Advanced. Yeah. I also want to thank my team of 30 professionals, helped me lead this organization. One of the questions people always ask is like, how do you pronounce NAAAP? Well, National Association of Asian American Professionals that's what the 5 letters stands for. Going forward, it's all about branding and marketing. It's NAAAP. Just simple as that, NAAAP. 30 of us are volunteer. These are positions purely on a volunteer basis. None of us gets a paycheck. We have 8 board of directors. We welcome all members. One of the common questions when I first became president is like, Payne, do I have to be an Asian American professional to join? Absolutely not. If you could, we have a YouTube channel. Come to our website. You will see our crowd is very diverse. We welcome all members. We have people that are accounting, finance, marketing, technology, healthcare, legal, a lot of different backgrounds. If you're looking for a professional organization that you're looking to build some friendship, professional development, like the one we're having today, certainly very helpful in today's economic environment. How do you constantly need to brand and market yourself? In my day job, I work for a consulting and staffing firm. Robert Half, I am part of a management consulting group. In my night job, I run this organization with 30 of us. Last but not least, we have events coming up in June, July, August, all different topics. Go to our website and check it out. For anyone that's our CPAs or in accounting and finance looking to network, starting in Q3, we're gonna have a good amount of CPE sessions brought to you by our corporate sponsors, Ernst & Young, PwC, Robert Half, Protiviti, and Comcast. Hope you guys would join us again. Please feel free to link in with any one of us. We will find a way for about 100 of you today to find a way to network. Again, if you have any questions and emails, please email us. Go to our website if you're interested in signing up for a membership. Membership's $50 a year. We're currently running a special for a 2-year, a $400 value for $100. Look at our website, send the email to us, and again, we welcome all members. Kevin, thank you very much for doing a great job putting this event together. Shawn, Ming, thank you again for helping out. And the rest of the project management team, Tommy, Diane, Alan, Kaylee, Catherine, for putting this together. And all the new guests, welcome aboard. Thank you for joining now. Take it away, Kev.
Thank you, Ping. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our panel discussion on one of my favorite topics, how to market and promote your personal brand. Before we get started, I just want to mention that this session is being recorded for future on-demand viewing. And like Ping mentioned, we have a series of virtual events coming up in June, July. So we will be recording those events as well. And these recordings will be on the NAAAP Philly website. So yes, be sure to check out the website. Okay, so before I started, just one disclaimer. Some of you have seen the slide looping earlier. Just make sure that, stay muted. If you have any questions, please send a chat to our host and we will be able to take care of your question, okay? All right, hello. My name is Kevin He. I am currently a marketing manager at WuXi Advanced Therapies. I will be your moderator for today. I am very excited to introduce you to two of my favorite marketing professionals and friends, Min Park and Shawn Samuels. Min is currently a senior director of marketing at WuXi Advanced Therapies. He's also my manager. Actually, I met Min at one of NAAAP events, and I gave him my 45-second elevator pitch about my personal brand and what I'm looking for in my career. And we just kind of linked up from there. Shawn is a Senior Manager of Marketing at Comcast NBC Universal. He's also VP of Marketing with the NAAAP Philly. All right, without further ado, welcome Min and Shawn.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Kevin. Thank you. Thanks for having us here. And Min, I can't believe you gave 45 seconds for Kevin to give his elevator speech. It should have been 15 seconds.
First impression. It's all about first impression.
Well, Shawn, Min, since this is about, your personal brand and the, 45-second elevator pitch, why don't you two give us your 45-second elevator pitch as to why we should listen to the rest of the webinar?
Shawn, you want to go first? Oh.
Yeah, I'll go. I'll go first. I work in bringing Xfinity products to life to about 30,000 employees across our footprint in exchange so that they could be better educated and be able to articulate the products that we offer, which are best in class broadband, entertainment, connectivity to our customers. I've been with Comcast for about 10 years. I hopped around many different industries before, and that is my elevator speech.
Thank you, Shawn.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's really more. It doesn't really matter what industry that I am in or will be in. It's pretty much all around just integrating that sales and marketing and driving business forward, right? And making the company profitable where it needs to be. I would say that's kind of where my core focus is and where my career and history has led me to. So it's just pretty much building the business and organization for, and as well as future-proofing it as well.
Wow, thank you both. So we're gonna start this panel session by asking a few questions, and we'll have Shawn and Min kind of jump in, give their take on some of that discussions we're gonna have. Before I start, I just want to mention that May is the Asian Heritage Month. So we definitely want to celebrate May being Asian Heritage Month. Also, before I jump into the panel discussion, I want to share the poll result. Based on your input, it looks like majority of you are in the mid-career, so somewhere between 5 to 10, 11 to 20 years. Both of you are in that ballpark. It's very wide variety of fields you're in. I see people in computer technology, financial services, marketing, medical, healthcare, nonprofit. So, I mean, it's very diverse group we have here today. So thank you for joining us. Speaking of professions, right, fields of profession, marketing isn't necessarily a typical Asian profession, if you will. Most people, when we think of Asian, we think of, doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers. So Shawn, Min, feel free to chime in. How'd you got started with marketing?
I'll go first. So, there's a lot of professions that Asian Americans generally gravitate towards, and it's usually medical field, engineering, accounting, finance. Mainly our parents, fed this into our heads at a very young age, have such safe occupation. And marketing really isn't a popular choice, frankly, because we're not being exposed to it at a young age. But organically, I think we're all marketers, we're all in sales. We're selling an idea, we're selling a story, we're selling our brand, and we are positioning ourselves in our workplace for the next big opportunity. I'll kind of share about my background and how I got started with marketing. Collegiate days, was in business, didn't really start my career with marketing right away until much later. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry with J&J in a chemical purchasing space, and then I went with a specialty chemicals company in a procurement role. I was also adjunct professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Then I went into consulting with one of the Big Four public accounting firms, serving clients in US and Europe. So I hopped around between a few career choices before finally getting into business school, where I picked up an MBA, concentrating in marketing, and stayed on to finish a master's in marketing. And when I came out, really, we were experiencing an economic recession, and hiring for marketing professionals were damn near impossible. So I had two options, go into sales with IBM or continue management consulting. So I was ready to, gave in my acceptance letter to IBM's prestigious sales program and ready to move down to Atlanta, and Comcast came in at the last minute and just won me over. So I was in a product development role, relatively in a startup environment. Today, we all know this as Comcast Business. It's about an $8 billion machine. But marketing was always a goal in my mind. And while I did well in my product development role, I started planting the seeds and networking with what I call influencers and influencers within the marketing space. And really the opportunity found me by way of personal branding. I worked in a startup business unit group in multicultural, launching international channels and networks and curating our video on demand destination. Then I joined a small group of marketers, yet another startup, to launch the Xfinity Mobile business to the market. And now I'm in a more of a product education and advocacy muscle role. So short story is that, if you have a specific destination in mind, and I'll use this analogy, you may have to take multiple trains to get to your destination. They may not be the fastest path and travel at the speed of your desire, but eventually you get your destination as long as you are consistent and you're willing to work hard to be on that train. What we're going to talk about today is, is there an express train to get me to that destination as fast as possible? The answer is yes. It's called personal branding and promoting a brand widely.
Thank you, Shawn.
Yep. Shawn's absolutely correct, right? I mean, he touched on many, many points. But again, it is that trying, and giving it a try, being open-minded, right? So, similar path, I would say, and again, did I always think that I was going to be in marketing? No, it was nothing on my radar, and going to universities, and I was itself a journalist major actually, and somehow got into pharma companies in the earlier stage while I was going through university. And got into, being exposed to sales team and everything around those organizations, and, and as well as then got into marketing altogether. So it is basically that level of, being exposed, being open-minded, and trying out things that, that comes, opportunities that come your way, right? And figuring out what is that path, and is that the right path? I mean, I've asked many executives through my mentors and so forth, are you doing exactly what you had dreamt of from when you were, at school? And a lot of them didn't, right? And they've had turns within their career because it really comes down to your passion. What is your interest, and can you put your heart and all your soul into it? And I think that's kind of what, led my career into, I've been in business development, I've been in marketing, both ends. And I'd say sales and marketing are really intertwined together and hand to hand. And they need to be operated hand to hand to be effective, one cohesive machine. So that's kind of how I ended up being in the marketing as a profession today.
Thank you, man. And thanks, Shawn. That was very informative. I just wanted to ask, I guess, Shawn, you mentioned about having that personal brand is important. I guess I'll start with Min then. When did you figure it out, having a personal brand is important? And what did you do to promote your personal brand?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would say it was probably in the early to mid career, like many of us, right? Starting out, trying to figuring out, the type of work that you do, right? And the path that it's taking you on, and you start forecasting, is this, do I see myself doing this 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? Right? I mean, these are all natural, progression questions you have to ask yourself, right? And trying to figure your path forward. So I would say, I found myself in an early mid-career to figuring out, at the time I didn't know about a personal brand itself. It was just pretty much doing what I do. But one thing that I was doing was basically showing result, right? And that's the consistency in terms of doing what you do and being able to show results from it. And I didn't realize until later on, those results is what was paying off, and that became part of your brand. I would say during my, when I graduated from school with concentration in marketing, and that's kind of at the organization, the company I was at that point of time, didn't have a marketing department at all. And it was extremely in a fast-paced environment I remember going into my executive member's office and going in there and saying, hey, I'm graduating from marketing, concentration marketing. Here's my business plan. Here's basically what I would like to do by starting a marketing department from ground up. And it was a very short conversation. It was absolutely, you can have it. You could be our marketing guy. And that's, and later on, I come to realize after having many, many discussions that many years afterward, and what really triggered, that confidence was basically showing result, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's really more around your personal brand and becomes your reputation as well as what you deliver, right? And that's more of a tangible thing versus a conceptual storytelling. And I think that's kind of what I would say in terms of, that's when the light bulb goes on and you realize, you need to manage your personal brand and your reputation altogether.
Yeah, and I echo that. Results and consistency are definitely, the key elements in your personal branding. But, personal brand for me is a buzzword. The way that I define personal brand is the way people remember you. Personal brand is being able to share who you are and your skills in one message. And how do you do that in the marketplace and at your workplace today? If you kind of look at it from a macro level, about 7.5 billion people in this world, 332 million of them are Asian Americans, 5% are, 332 million are Americans and 5% are Asian Americans. So we are a small population and we're still breaking stereotypes into the different occupations that we are in. We're not just leaders in IT, we're not just leaders in business, we're leaders in medicine, leaders in entertainment and technology, and we can do your taxes really damn well. So, within your workplace, depending on how big or how small, there's hundreds of thousands of employees. And how do you stand out and how do you get someone to notice you for the next role? And I'll come back to that point because personal branding for me really started at a young age and I didn't notice it and I wouldn't call it personal branding at that time. But retrospecting, it is personal branding. I'll talk about the environment that I was brought up in and how that factored into this DNA around personal branding. So I immigrated from India to the US when I was 10 years old, knew nothing about the culture, knew nothing about the country. I lived in a 550 square foot apartment in an underserved area in Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia. Very low economics. My father was the only one working at that time, worked a minimum wage job to keep us, a family of five, grounded. I went to really bad schools, low performing schools who just didn't have the resource to give the best education for students that were attending. There's a lot of drugs and violence in my teens. I've witnessed so much that I made a conscious choice that I want to build a better life. I want to be successful. I know what unsuccessful looks like. But I wasn't exposed to successful people, so I didn't know what that looked like. Success for me at that time was turning my circumstances into the best case scenario. So how do I stand out? That's where personal branding really started for me. And I knew I was in a disadvantage earlier on at a young age. Not everything is created equally. So how do I turn this opportunity into something good? So I learned grit. And grit is, basically the ability to go and show courage and passion and persevere. Learn grit. I learned hard work. I knew post-collegiate life, I had to stand out for an employer to choose me because one, I'm a person of color. There aren't too many like me who made it this far from where I come from. I didn't have mentors or successful people to guide me. I didn't have the resource to fund my own educations or leaders that can get me into a reputable company. I had to create that destiny for me. So here's kind of 5 things that I would say that helped me build my personal branding. And I'm still mastering these at many levels. One is, being able to be visible and in play. So how do you take your projects and get eyes on it, being able to tell a compelling story? Min mentioned, you got to have a story behind it that really resonates with people. In my case, how do I take my disadvantaged environment to something positive? Learning grit, learning hard work, and all ingredients to help amplify my brand. Second is, how do I become a source of relevant information? Information is king. You have to be a source within your company or your team so that people come to you for that specific subject matter expertise that only you provide. And how do you exactly find that information? Where do you go? Well, you have to find the leaders to get the information. You have to invest time in learning new ways. And you have to talk to people within your company and across the industry to formulate your ideas and your thought. The third thing that I would say is, find out who are the influencers within your company and tell your story, whether it's your project or something you're working on that can be benefit for both of you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in your direct department. It could be outside of that. See, these influencers, they have the ability to amplify your story, gaining your project visibility. And so people start noticing who you are. Now, these influencers, I would say, are your sponsors, right? They are someone who can also champion your career. The fourth point that I would say is network, and network is a buzzword. It's nothing more than connecting with individuals and sharing your story. If you're in a seasoned in your career, mentor someone that's junior to you. I guarantee you that you'll learn something more than the junior person you're mentoring. And if you're managing up, you want to be around senior leadership. This is the up, down, and across methodology. You want to be in on the senior leadership. That's where you find relevant information when you become a subject matter expertise, and you got to start thinking like your leaders and bounce your ideas off of them first. So they're poking holes and solidifying your idea. And lastly, I would say, say yes to opportunities. It's one thing to participate at events or listen in on a project and you just become a consumer of it. But how do you take it to the next level? Raise your hand and say, hey, I want to plan that event. I want to plan that experience. I want to lead that project. Not only do you get in the inner circle and get exposed to influencers who have the information, you get to shape the experience people enjoy. We have to be more of the creators and less of the consumers. When you create, there's innovation, there's an experience you're putting together, your thought, your mind, your skill set, and people see that. And yes, Shawn and Min and Kevin are the ones that organized this event and led this project. And personal branding, remember what I said is, it's showcasing who you are and your skill sets in one message. So that is one of your express streams to get to your next opportunity.
Thank you, Shawn. That's very. First of all, thanks for sharing your personal background story. That's very touching. I think a lot of us resonate well with a lot of us. I know I can relate. Coming here, being a young immigrant as well, struggle my way through looking for a leader, looking for sponsor, looking for mentors. I really like how you put these key elements in these 5 buckets, right? Forget about the oil, forget about the gold, forget about the Bitcoins. Relationship is the new currency moving forward. It's that relationship that you develop. It's what people are value moving forward. So with that said, I wanted to go back to Min. Obviously you talked about started out as a journalist in the journalism field. Throughout your career, have you shifted or needed to change your elevator pitch to remain relevant?
Well, I would say I haven't had a chance in terms of, not the chance I should say, it's really more, I have not had the urge to change my pitch or my career path. It's really more around, when you think of being relevant, right? It also comes down to the way I see it is really forecasting, right? As much as within business, you forecast where the business needs to go and where it should be and where it's tracking towards. It's not that different how you manage yourself, right? And you look at the industry and the market and you try to start forecasting what you need to be and what in terms of what you need to be learning, right? To be offering future value, right? So if you, and with that formula itself, I mean, I haven't had the need to change my path because you improve on yourself if you're able to forecast and take the necessary steps and measures to put those things in place to make you that relevant in the future state as well.
Shawn?
Yeah, and there's a couple of key elements when you think about developing personal brand. Substance is one, content is one, but there's these intangibles. It's the authentic self. So that means you cannot fake your brand, right? The more authentic you are in demonstrating who you are as a person, the more people that will gravitate towards you. If you look at a person like Ping Cho, the president of NAAAP, you know, people organically just gravitate towards Ping because he's open, he's embracive, and he's got content and substance, and he's sharing his stories consistently. Clem Chang is another example. People just naturally just gravitate towards him, and he's our senior vice president of HR at Comcast. So if you have a story, you have to find a way to share that story. I know my story, obviously first generation in the US, very little resources, beat many odds and studying at the highest level, becoming a professional and leader within my company. I'm saying yes to opportunities that opens up doors for me. You know, the one way that I look at connecting with people is, you know, elevating and endorsing leaders in your company, in your community, in your social circle. Not only do you make friends, but you're also harnessing your skill as being an influencer. Jack Ma, you know, he's a perfect example, the co-founder for Alibaba Group. He's an incredibly humble guy, despite being a self-made billionaire, one of the richest people in the world. He stood out highlighting how important hard work is and dedication and keeping your ego in check, no matter how high you climb up the ladder. Certainly that's not a unique stance. He's owned it. He's infused that message into his own brand of humility and obviously his quirky tactics. But I would say, you know, authentic self that connects you to content and second, I would say is, you know, expertise. Are you a creator or are you just a consumer? You have to think about that, your expertise. Third is connection. And there's kind of three simple ways that I think about connection. It's who is it that you want to know? What is it that you want to know? And how can you add value to that person? If you got three of those things solidified, you have the opportunity to go make a connection.
Thank you. So great information. Now we have some of the tools to go in our toolbox, right? As far as how do we develop that personal brand? How do we develop that 45-second elevator pitch? Now, the next question we have for you is, how do you then go from having that 45-second elevator pitch to building a lasting relationship? So I guess I'll direct it back to Shawn.
Yeah, you know, elevator pitches, you know, changes based on your audience and who you're interacting with. It can't be rehearsed. It has to come out organically. And oftentimes you don't have time to prepare for it. You can all use all the fancy jargons, 30 or 45-second elevator pitch, but authenticity is key. You have to make it, you have to show your personality, make it memorable, and have an extended conversation flow. So I'm going to try an elevator pitch with one of my execs. Pretend that I'm in the elevator and I'm seeing Brian Roberts, our CEO of Comcast NBC Universal. Hey, Brian, you know, I work on bringing Xfinity products to life for about 30,000 employees. So in exchange, they can go and be able to articulate how great our products are and their best-in-class broadband entertainment and connectivity to our consumers. You know, Brian, I really enjoyed that session. You mentioned how our products have evolved everyday life and we're transforming the customer experience. You made some fantastic points, and I think about that very often when I'm positioning these products. Would love to hear more thought leadership from you. Do you have 15 minutes to chat about this when your schedule frees up? Now, what you've done is you opened up a dialogue. You talked about you brought the skill set you bring to the table. You also added relevancy to the person by a way of connecting them into the conversation. You've also opened up a dialogue to extend your conversation by asking, hey, you know, I'd love to hear more about you. That keeps the door open, and anybody has 15 minutes. Brian's probably a little too busy, but for most people, you know, senior leaders are very accessible, and they're willing to give you 15 minutes.
Man, we're dying to hear your strategy.
Shawn has great points there. I mean, it really boils down to what exactly Shawn said, right? It's really more around that first step, right? You don't need 45 seconds, right? What defines you amongst others is your initiative, right? How many people would have in that scenario, what Shawn said will just be in the elevator, right? Versus the one that engages, right? So that's what's a defining moment of that, taking that initial initiative itself, right? And that's I would say that's the point where you got my attention, just for the fact that you took an initiative to do something, to say something, to engage. And on top of that, it's that passion. There's nothing worse than, and I know Shawn touched on authentication, right? It's be authentic. And it really, when you're passionate about something, when you're having a conversation with somebody about that specific topic, that passion comes right through your voice and right through your message, right? And so I would say the key thing for me will be, you don't need 45 seconds. That first impression always makes the most important impression. Take that initiative, take that leap of faith, take that risk, and be passionate about what you do and what you say.
Thank you. It's so true, right? Being authentic, you don't need to kind of predetermine what you're gonna say before you walk up to that person. And kind of what Shawn said, right? People can see through you if it's premeditated, pre-rehearsed, right? Just be genuine, be yourself. Don't be afraid to be, to be able to open yourself up and let people in, right? The vulnerability, a lot of time people tend to shut themselves out, try to pretend, put up this kind of wall, right? People can see through you. Being authentic will go a long, long way. So thank you guys for that advice. We do have one question before we kind of jump into a little game here. So I guess the last question I have for you, and for the audience, please, send your questions over. We have a Q&A session later on, so we will definitely get to your questions. As far as for the panel discussion here, the last discussion I guess I wanted to touch on before we move into our next segment of the event. So what would be your one piece of advice on how to continue to market and promote your personal brand? So Min, I kick it back to you.
Yeah, well, it's just tied to basically that, that being different is taking that initiative. But most importantly, I guess for the one piece of advice that I can give to everyone is be yourself and be that different person and be that vocal person, right? So, again, your brand is all about you're showing your result. So work hard at what you do and be passionate about what you do and show that result. And that will follow you in terms of your part of your records. Try to be outside of your comfort zone, right? And that itself will lead you to be more, taking more initiatives and, and connecting with others, and take that calculated risk. I'm glad that Shawn touched on this earlier, is seek out for a mentor. Mentor is not going to come seek for you. You have to be the one to initiate, to look for a mentor. And I can't emphasize how valuable it is, and how much it's been valuable for me, where I am, and who I am. Right, I've learned so many great insight from mentors. So look for a mentor early as you can in the earliest career, and find the one person that's really going to make that difference in your life in terms of coaching you and mentoring you through that as well. And I would say that's probably your biggest task to do. And that would differentiate you by yourself, because you're taking that initiative versus where everybody else is not.
And I think I have two advice. One advice is, people, a key thing about remembering people is that people don't remember you for what you have said or what you have done for them, but people walk away with remembering how you have made them feel. So I'm going to say that again. People don't remember what you say or what you have done. People walk away with remembering how you have made them feel. So make a conscious effort to make sure that they feel something when you're interacting with them. The second point that I want to make is say yes to opportunities. Get into the inner circle, be an influencer, and give in ways back. I'll give you an example. I talked about my background, right, and where I came from. 7 years ago, I founded was one of the co-founders for the Employee Resource Group when we were starting at Comcast for the Asian Pacific Americans group. So I was able to lead the charge then, and one of the very first things that I did was, hey, how do I give back to my community? So I went to a high school in Philadelphia, starting kids, first generation, low income families, low economic neighborhoods. And they're starting for people that are successful and they're not exposed to it. So Was able to work with Comcast and School District of Philadelphia and the high school itself to put together a mentorship program. You know, students come on to our campus in Center City. They get paired up with, you know, mentors from the collegiate level. So there's a bridge from professional to collegiate level as well as the high school level. And many of them, first time they're coming down to Center City, Philadelphia, let alone seeing the Comcast building. And that opportunity came because I had the urge to give back, and the opportunity presented itself, and it said, hey, I want to lead the charge. I want to design this. I want to design the curriculum. I want to design the experience. The program has been running for the last 5 or 6 years. I see a few of the mentors that are in that program on this list of people attending the event today. So say yes to opportunities. And if you say no, how do you get onto that train, right? That fast train that gets you to your destination.
Thank you. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Min. I see a lot of questions are coming in right now. So before we jump into the Q&A session, I want to get the panelists warmed up a little bit. We're going to play a little game called Rapid Response. You guys ready?
I'm scared. Go for it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, I'm going to throw out a word, a phrase, you know, and then just, you know, give me the first thing come up you can think of, okay? Don't think too much, just let it roll out of your tongue. Millennials.
Innovation.
Fearless. They're breaking all stereotypes, and they're inclusive and diverse, and not only in just race, but diverse thought.
Best career advice ever received.
Best career advice. Show result.
Okay.
I would say don't waste energy on telling people how smart you are or how capable you are. Show them.
Okay.
Finn did, and that's why he started his marketing department at WuXi.
No, not there.
Pepsi or Coke?
Hands down, Coke.
I gotta say Pepsi, but I love my Coke with mixed drinks.
All right. So one word to describe you before you started your career, and one word to describe you now.
Oh, it's the same word, energy.
I can attest to that.
I'd say ambitious before, and after I would say influencer.
Okay, all right. Who is your favorite marketer?
Ooh, so many out there. I mean, I can't go down the list, you know, but I would say, you know, there's many out there.
Probably Richard Branson. He's not a marketing guy, but he's a founder of Virgin Group. And if you don't know Richard Branson, you're probably living under a rock. He's just phenomenal. His brand's everywhere in the world. And the second person I would say is Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a little bit more explicit, another great marketing leader who's just a straight shooter. So if you don't know him, look him up, Gary Vaynerchuk.
I mean, he goes by Gary V.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Shawn, I'm disappointed. You told me I was your favorite marketer last night.
Did you guys have drinks?
All right.
Kevin, I said that so you would ask easier questions.
Your leadership style?
I would say example.
Open and collaborative.
Okay. Your favorite food?
I'm a foodie. I'll take any food.
I gotta say Italian pasta, but it has to be freshly made pasta with some aged red wine. And I love my Indian food as well. So India has some exquisite cuisines from north to south.
Okay, good. What makes you tick?
Ooh, I would say, you know, repeating itself, right?
Dishonesty.
Okay. All right. What do you see yourself in 10 years?
Wow. Let's see. Hopefully on an island somewhere on a beach with a drink in my hand.
I would say being an influencer and leading a marketing discipline at Comcast and elevating people above me so I can get their roles.
All right. Last one for you. On a scale 1 to 10, how cool are you?
Shawn, you can go first.
My wife's listening in, so I've got to say at least an 8. I think I'm pretty damn cool.
Let's say I give myself
Giving me the look
on there. I give myself a 4 on that one.
All right. So I think at this point, both of you guys are pretty warmed up. We are going to open the floor up for questions from the audience. We have Ellen on the line. She will be kind of, liaison between the audience questions coming in and for us. So Ellen, do we have any questions?
Yes. Hi, guys. We have several questions, and we'll continue to take them up until the hour, and we'll start. So this is for either of you or one of you. But one of the questions came in and asked, what was the turning point in your career that helped you go from being underserved or disadvantaged to the next level? And did it happen naturally, or did you seek out these opportunities? And if you did seek out these opportunities, what were them? What did you do? Who wants to go first?
I'll take that on. I think really the pinnacle of where I realized that, hey, I'm at a disadvantage. I need to work extra hard because, people that are looking for work that are in my position, that are coming from the suburbs or even in, the wealthier areas of the city, they have a complete advantage over me. How do I stand out? So I started investing in myself, educating myself. I would talk to my suburban friends and figure out what curriculum they're studying, and even at the collegiate level, I just started making contact, talking to people, and having a genuine interest in them. And I didn't really fake that. So these relationships started forming in many different ways. I joked around with Brian Roberts. Actually, that happened about 9 years ago with Brian Roberts. He was at a small mom and pop shop in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. And I was, very junior at that time with Comcast. And I basically went up to him and I said, hey, sir, this is what I do. Love to meet you. He actually said, hey, I'm waiting for my family. I've got 10, 15 minutes. Sit down. He was a multi-billionaire. They gave me 15 minutes, bought me coffee, and we were shooting the breeze. And he told me how he doesn't really like talking to people very much. He's an introvert, and it was kind of cool to see, our company's leader really open and be vulnerable to some of the things that he's not really comfortable with. But we had a great dialogue. So I would say is, step outside of your comfort zone, be uncomfortable. In order to be comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable first. So I would say work on sharpening your tools, your skill sets, forming relationships, and to Min's point, take the leap of faith and take that risk and say hello and make the introduction.
Just to add to that, I mean, again, I can almost, people learn from their mistakes, right? I mean, I have, you have, and I think all of us have along the way. I would say earlier on, I mean, you really don't know your own strength. You need to figure that out, right? And exactly what Shawn said, just sharpen your skill set, right? Once you figure out what your strength is. So one, know your strength, right? And then once you know your strength, be very clear. Be very clear when you articulate and what your message is and what your position is. So once you know your strength, be very clear about it. And the last one, again, these are things you have to learn along the way, is be confident, right? Once you know your stuff and once you're clear about what your intentions are, you have to be confident of what you're basically, who you are, right? So have that confidence. And within those, within those steps, you will be noticed, because within those steps, you will perform and you will show results. And with that becomes your reputation and everything else, and your personal brand that comes with that. And you also will be noticed. Hopefully that answers the questions.
Well, that's great. And speaking about learning, how did you, well, maybe both of you, well, one of you want to share some of the one of the failures that you've experienced, and how did you handle that and rebound from it? And also, what advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, I mean, John, I'll take that first, I guess. I mean, there's, you have to be honest with yourself as well, right? So did I have a lot of failures? Absolutely. I think I remember when I first joined marketing, when I said I'm going to start a marketing department, yeah, there's a lot of things I've learned along the way. Why? Because I didn't have a mentor and a coach along the way as well, right? Because you have a lot of ambition, but sometimes all that ambition, sometimes you're not making the right sound business judgments as well. So, but you learn from it, right? So, and I think that's where what you do from those failures, do you, hunker down, do you take a couple of steps back, or do you pretty much pick yourself up, dust yourself, you learn from that mistake and you take that forward. Don't lose that momentum, because losing that momentum itself is really much harder to start. So when you have the momentum, you really got to dust off and come out of your shell and learn from it, and make sure you learn from it without repeating it, right? And advance that forward.
Yeah, I think, one of my big failures is I have a hard time saying no to people, right? My workplace, social circle, personal life. I just hate saying no. And I'm always collaborative and open, and sometimes I get asks from the left field. And in the spirit of information sharing and being helpful, I've learned over the years that you got to get out of that mentality. Your time is precious. You have to find your niche, your specialty, where you are the subject matter experts. You can't focus your priorities on 10 different things. You have to narrow that list and really hone in into the activities that bring your strengths out. And there's only so many hours in a day that you can dedicate to your profession while you make it home in time for dinner and put your kids to bed. So if you kind of look at the spectrum of life, in our teenage years, in our teens, we're rushing to be 21, right? When we get to 21, oh, I want to be 25. When you're 25, you're rushing to work in the work field and make money, and you're discovering yourself and who you are. 30 to 40 is like that time interval where you're starting your family life for most of us, and balancing work and life, and climbing the corporate ladder. And 40 to 65 is when you're really kind of at the ladder. You're climbing the peaks. 65 is when you start retiring and you wish you were younger. So when you were younger, you want to be older. When you're older, you want to be younger. So from 25 to 65, the reality is it's a blur. After you retire, you're not going to remember those projects that you worked 80 hours to get it done, or the promotion that took you, 7-8 years to get. You think about the people that made a difference in your life. You think about the relationship that you've made and extended, and people that impacted your life. So I would say find the niche, find what you're really good at, and start driving a plan to get there, and take your plan to these influencers and get their thoughts before you go back to your management and your leadership and say, here's the idea that I have. Now you've got, a support pillar that solidified your thought process and your idea.
Right. And you're absolutely right about, limited time. So how much has goal setting played a role in your career trajectory?
I would say it should play a role. It should be pretty much part of your own personal mechanism. I know you have to do it at work, right? but you should also, take mind to setting your goals within yourself, right? I mean, that should be a personal thing that you should be doing, and that could be for anything, right? Financial goals or whatever it is. Earlier, I talked about forecasting, right? I mean, it's the same thing as you do in business, but you got to do it personally yourself. Where do you see yourself, right? Going and being within the next 3 to 5 years and 10 years? What is that, end game for you personally? And without having established those set goals, as well as most importantly, within those goals, you have to have milestones. Did I hit those milestones along the way? Because if you're not tracking, if you're not hitting those milestones, your forecast is off itself, right? So I think it's very important for personally to set those milestones and goals and objectives for yourself, whatever the career or whatever you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and adding to that point, goals are very important, that you document your goals. At least you have it in paper, because one thing that's in your head, when you start seeing it on the paper is when it starts resonating. And, along with goals, you have to have, what's my path, my list of activities to hit those goals. If I don't have a list of activities to hit those goals, then goals are insignificant. And then goals also need measurement. How am I measuring the success of this goal? And it's not up to you to decide what does success looks like. Your leader defines your success, and you can have that collaboration or that negotiation of what does success look like in this goal. So I think between you and your leaders, it needs to be a defined kind of goal with activities and measurements. And goals are fluid, right? Priorities change, seasonality comes into play, businesses have to pivot and maneuver. So your goals may change towards the middle portion of the year or even not be relevant by the end of the year. So how do you pivot away from that goal and have what we call, your niche spots, the things that you specialize in that will add value and impact to your business unit or the company that you're working for.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Kevin,
Thank you, Alex.
Kevin, do we have time for one more, or are we good?
It will be a quick one. Sure.
Okay. Well, this one came in. And maybe Shawn and Min can make it quick. Do you feel this is the best version of you in life thus far? And if you had to do it over in the past 10 years, what would you do over?
I would say, is this the best version? I'm pretty critical and hard on myself, so I would say no, because I think there's always room for improvement. What I would say is I probably would have done what I know now. I would definitely have done things a lot earlier in my life, right? And then maybe you will be the best version at that if I had to do it all over again.
Yeah, same here. I think, there's more potential, there's more upside. I'm kind of, mid-level in my career, and I'm looking to grow it and do even more. And if I knew the things that I knew today and flash it back to my earlier career days, things would be definitely different. You pick up, intelligence, you pick up the ability to navigate different situations and scenarios. You learn how to talk to people. I was a shy, quiet person earlier on in my life, but I had to force myself to become uncomfortable to get comfortable. And I had to stand out. Like I said, it was a disadvantage in growing up in my environment, so I needed to stand out. And so I would definitely have more opportunities to grow, and I've got influencers and mentors in my space helping me out. At the same time, I'm also giving it back to the younger generations, giving back to the people that are just like me or may have similar stories.
All right. Wow, we're just about at one. So I want to thank you both. This has been a extremely informative session. Hopefully everyone's able to take away some few key points from this discussion. I know I have, I'm probably going to go back and rewatch the recording again. So at this point, if some of you still have questions where we have not had a chance to address, feel free to reach out to us. I know Tommy just shared the event slides. You'll be able to reach out to both Shawn and Min on LinkedIn, and you guys can connect, right? You can, practice your 45-second elevator pitch with them, what have you. At this point, I want to bring Ping back. Ping wants to give his closing thoughts before we adjourn. Ping?
Hey, Kevin, good job. Shawn, Min, thank you very much for helping out. Can you guys hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay. No, it was really fun. I appreciate it. Again, I want to thank everybody who's not familiar with us for joining us today. And, we have 20 corporate sponsors on the list that you see right now. And if any of the service or products that you could use, please consider them. And also, Shawn and Min, you guys work for two of the biggest employers in town, Comcast and WuXi Advanced. If anyone in the audience is interested in network with you or may potentially explore an opportunity, we have folks on here are accounting, finance, operation, HR, marketing, IT, healthcare. What's the best way for them to reach out to you? I was maybe start out with LinkedIn, and you could just point in the right direction. I want to continue to add value to my members.
Oh, absolutely. I would say, reach out to me on LinkedIn. If we're not LinkedIn together, just go in there right now, right after this session, send me a request. Love to network with you. And, again, that's probably, I would say, the best way to reach out to me first. And then I can always put you into the contacts with the right personnel as well.
Echo that sentiment. LinkedIn's probably the best platform to reach out, and then we can make connections from there.
Okay. Lastly, everyone, really appreciate you joining us. Go to our website, and on there, if just sign up for a newsletter, we have some great events coming up. Again, especially, I'm accounting and finance background. Like I said earlier, starting Q3, we're gonna have a bunch of CPE sessions. The events will be led by a director of finance at Comcast named Easy Lynn. Again, it's a good opportunity to network with your peers in different industries. With that being said, again, thank you very much for everybody for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and please, go LinkedIn with everyone that you want to network with at this event. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.